ingestion of spicy peppers resets your calibration for what's spicy. I think we know that too. And in a way that also adjusts people's pain threshold. So if people get better at eating hot peppers, they're better at dealing with all types of pain. And I find this fascinating because I know you and I are both kind of obsessed with ice baths and cold plunges. Yeah. And I've been going deep into that literature around cold and what's really known about cold thermogenesis and not known. And it seems like these acute adrenaline, acute pain pathways, they do exactly what exercise does, which is in the moment, if you were to measure somebody's inflammation, et cetera, you'd say this person is dying. They're in a terrible state. They might as well be getting, open heart surgery with no anesthesia, the way some people react to the ice bath. It's kind of silly to us. But for people that don't like the cold, they're like, you got to be kidding me. I'd never go near it. They try and disparage it. They try and poke every hole in the data. They're just scared, right?
Yeah.
They're just scared. We know this. But they are actually the people that benefit the most because that really acute adrenaline spike, that pain that you feel creates a higher pain threshold later, higher threshold for work output, all of the things that most people seek. And so to me, it's always interesting that you have to look what's happening during and you have to look at what's happening afterward. And for some reason, as humans, we like these creature comforts of massages, which are great. The sauna, which is great, although if you crank it up really hot, it's work at some level.
It's always work at the end.
There's that
the
moment.
The last 5 minutes of a 25-minute session at 190 degrees, that's work.
Yeah, and there's something about the burning in the nose for me. At least my heart rate starts like I want to get the hell out.
Burning in the nose. So are you using water on the rocks a lot?
Yeah.
So that's what's giving you the burning in the nose?
Yeah. I'm it's always hard to know how hot it is right at the place where it reaches your body. But I've been cranking it way, way up.
Like what temperature?
Like 260.
What?
260, but I
260.
But I cover my head.
Why? So what are you, a brisket?
No,
what the fuck are you doing?
Well, what I found is.
Why are you doing that?
So what's interesting is your desire to get out of the hot tub or the too hot tub is because of burning on the skin, right? But your desire to get out of the sauna is usually a brain thing. You'll notice this because if you go to a Russian banya, they all wear the little wool hats. Yeah. That's to insulate their brain against the heat so they can stay in at hotter temperatures on their body. So I'm in at 260, but I've got my head covered with a wool cap. So it doesn't feel as stressful. But I'm doing it because I like to sweat.
But if it doesn't feel as stressful, wouldn't it have less of a positive effect?
Okay, so this is great because what you're starting to do is tease out the variables. So this is where I think it gets interesting. You can get better at sweating. I know fighters do this in preparation, dropping weight. You can get better by doing more sauna. You get it to be a better sweater, which means that you can cool more easily, even in clothes or if you're out running or hunting or doing anything. So there's some advantage to being better at sweating. And sweating itself is a whole interesting story. You actually have nerves that control the sweat glands. That's actually controlled by little nerve endings. And those pathways can grow very, very quickly in the presence of heat. So what I've been trying to do is learn how to dump heat better. And if I don't use the hat, what happened was I was getting up to 220 and I'd sit in there for like 45 minutes. I'm thinking, this is not doing anything for me anymore. I want to increase my sweating.
Have you brought in an independent thermometer?
You're not trusting the 260 measurement. No. So what I did is I haven't. So
who makes your sauna?
This is Dundalk. But so what I had the guy do who had installed it for me is put the thermometer down low. Right. Because it's a trigger, right? It's going to shut it off when it hits a certain temperature. Yeah. So what I'm really trying to do is get it really, really hot down near the floor. Because then when I stand up when it's that hot, I'm just ready to pass out. No chance. Yeah. But I think Laird, I don't want to get this wrong on the numbers, but I know Laird brings his Airdyne bike in there.
Mm-hmm. With oven mitts on.
So he's got to be putting himself at least 260, right? I mean,
himself, I don't think he has his sauna set at 260. No. I think his sauna set in the 200s, though. I think it's like 215 or 220.
But pedaling on the Airdyne, that's
he's a psycho.
Yeah, that's psycho.
But he's a different kind of human being.
Yeah. But I'm contrasting this with cold.
Yeah.
And so
that's a difference. Are you going cold and then 260?
I'm a wimp. I start in the cold for a minute, then I go into the sauna, then back into the cold for 2 minutes, back into the sauna, then 3 minutes.
But you're not a wimp. Why are you saying that?
Well, listen, if I were tougher, I'd go 5 minutes in the cold straight off.
Yeah.
But I just had Susanna Soberg out for a podcast, and she taught me some really interesting things. First of all, this has really helped. I did this.
We should explain that she's the woman who created the Soberg principle.
Yeah. Susanna Soberg did her PhD in Denmark. Is I think one of the best scientists in terms of deliberate cold exposure and its benefits, because she actually did something that's remarkable, not just in that field, but overall, which is that she employed real-world type experiences and exercise of deliberate cold and sauna and turned it into a very rigorous study of brown fat thermogenesis, which is this think of it as sort of like the oil in the candle of your body, increases mitochondrial function, and thermogenesis heats you up, metabolism, subjective well-being, sleep, et cetera. She did all of that and published this in Cell Reports Medicine. And I realize it's just one study, but to do that studies on humans is hard. To do it with multiple variables is even harder. And to do it in a real-world context is even harder. So what she showed was that if people get 11 minutes of deliberate cold exposure per week total, and this is divided up into sessions of 1 to 3 minutes or 4 minutes even, so it's not 11 minutes all at once, they fundamentally change the amount of brown fat that they have, which means they fundamentally change the number of mitochondria in the brown fat, which means they fundamentally change their thermogenic properties of their body, increase their metabolism. Now, the people who don't like cold say, well, the increase in metabolism wasn't enough to offset more than a few bites of a bagel or something. But that's not the point, really. What she also showed was that this increase in thermogenesis allowed people to be more comfortable in cold environments, even when they're not in the cold. And then people say, well, who cares, right? I'll throw on a jacket. But what she was able to show is that the ability to be comfortable in the cold correlates with a bunch of other important immune functions and metabolic functions and insulin sensitivity, which is a good thing.